Franklin County Commissioners meeting, August 28, 2018.
Good morning, everybody. Before we get started, I'd just like to remind you, we've got some feedback from previous meetings that people are having trouble hearing us, so we're going to move these mics a little closer. If anybody has trouble hearing, let us know. Feel free to do the same if you want. So welcome to the regular board meeting of the Franklin County Board of Commissioners. Today is Tuesday, August 28, 2018. All three commissioners are here. Commissioner Cook, Commissioner Miller, myself, Commissioner Peck, and the County Administrator, Mr. Johnson. First order is to call the meeting to order. So we are in session now. Meeting is called to order. And if you would, please join me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. First full agenda item is a public hearing on Franklin Conservation District proposal to switch from a special assessment to a system of rates and charges for natural resource conservation on lands in Franklin County. I know we've got Marcus here and we've got other folks in the Conservation District. I've got my glasses on, I can tell you who they are. Anyway, if you don't mind, maybe you'd like to come on up and for the benefit of people who are listening, for the benefit of the audience here, if you maybe give us just 2 or 3 sentences to summarize what we're doing here. I understand it's driven by statutory change, there's no cost change, and if you could just sort of give us a big picture, then we'll move from here.
That's correct. And if you don't mind, Mr. Chair, I've got just a short little presentation, mainly aimed at those people in the public, so
that's even better.
All right.
I've gotten that word, so great. And if you brought people with you, feel free to introduce them.
Brad Bailey, he's a supervisor on the Conservation District. Heather is the assistant manager. And I'll go rather quick here. We don't need to spend a lot of time on this, but first of all, just a short presentation, and then questions and answers for anybody, and then, of course, the public hearing. We're a political subdivision of the state, authorized under RCW 8908. Our supervisors, Scott Moore, a dryland wheat farmer, Mark Weisler, irrigated crops and cattle, Dick Benjins, a dairy operator, Brad Bailey, organic vegetable grower, and Brian Cochran, a dryland wheat farmer.
So is Mr. Cochran the retired Air Force officer right now?
That is correct.
Must be a good guy.
Yeah. Oh, all right. Yeah. Our natural resource properties that we have said is water quantity, water quality, wind erosion, soil quality, wildlife habitat, and education. And just some of our projects, we have provided staff support to the Conservancy Board since its inception in 1999. And we have, the board has done over 100 water right transfers since their inception. We chair the USDA Environmental Quality Incentive Program work group, and that program has brought in about $2.5 million to the irrigated livestock producers and over $600,000 to the dryland producers for direct cost share for implementing best management practices. We also provide the technical support for the irrigation water management program. We've managed 77 contracts on 10,000 acres and another $100,000 in cost share. We are responsible for preparing and approving the state-mandated dairy nutrient management plans for all the dairies in the county, and all the counties in the dairy have an approved plan. We also work with producers to provide wildlife habitat. We cost share on plantings and wildlife watering facilities. We've been under an agreement with the county. The county is the delegated authority from Ecology for the Ag Burn program, and then we have an agreement with the county to issue the permits. And we've been issuing them since 2003. In the last 10 years, we've issued 731 permits for about 75,000 acres.
You decline to issue permits very often?
As long as they meet the requirements, then we basically cannot decline it. And so I cannot think, well, actually we kind of pre-screen it. And so if somebody comes in and wants to do something that we just can't.
Trouble if it's not going to make sense.
Correct. We basically say, look, you can't apply.
That's a good distinction because the data could be very misleading if
Yeah.
people didn't know that.
Yeah, I mean, we approve 100%, but we tell people, no, you can't do that. The Heritage Government Program, let's go back real quick. It promotes the use of native plants and promotes low water use landscaping and efficient irrigation methods. Basically, if you convert an acre of lawn to this type of program, you save over 800,000 gallons annually. We work with the State Conservation Commission with the Natural Resource Investment Account, and since 2009, we've provided almost $1 million in direct financial assistance to growers to implement 133 best management practices. We also have an agreement with the county as the lead entity for the voluntary stewardship program. The work group prepared the plan, and the state approved the work group's plan at the end of February of this year. We have a number of education programs, Salmon in the Classroom, teacher workshops, Water on Wheels, Junior Drain Rangers, Wheat Week, and I wish we had the total numbers up there, but all I know is, let's see, can you remember how many? Kara, I think, reached 26,000 students last year. And it's Wheat Week is actually a statewide program taught on the west side also. The system of assessment, 10-year resolution, irrigated lands would be charged $5 per parcel and 10 cents an acre. Dry lands, $2 per parcel and 2 cents an acre. Rangeland is $1 per parcel and 1 cent an acre. And all incorporated lands, which includes basically City of Connell and Mesa. City of Pasco is not in the Conservation District, but they are charged $5 per parcel and 10 cents an acre. By law, the maximum that we can charge is $5 per parcel and 10 cents an acre. And our board decided that we would not try to raise any of the other rates, just honestly cost-benefit ratio, just, you know, there's no benefit to raise it. So,
a couple of questions for you.
Yes, sir.
Here. Your irrigated lands, it says includes rural home sites. Are you saying it includes the acreage of those, or that you assess a rural home site that's not a farming activity?
We would assess a rural home site that is not a farming activity as if it was an irrigated land. It's very similar to the incorporated lands.
So I understand that conservation is, say, water, for example, whether you're putting on crops or on a lawn. And that's included in the authority of the statute to do that.
That's correct.
Okay. And these, you mentioned the rate caps, those are statutory rate caps, right?
That's correct.
Okay, thanks. Okay, this is actually really good information. It was in our read ahead, so we've all read it, but I'm glad you're going through it because it's good to hear it a second time.
Yep, sure. And if you got questions. So the budget, if you look, the rates and charges from the county, $74,000 approximately, is actually a small portion of our total budget, but it is a very important portion of our budget because quite often we need to generate matching funds for some of these other programs. And so right now we're basically, you know, what, at a 10-to-1 ratio, more than 10-to-1 ratio as far as local dollars versus bringing in federal and state funds. And with that, I will turn it back over to you.
So on the state and federal grant monies, what does that line look like over the years? Is that very erratic, up and down, some years good, some not, or is it fairly consistent?
You know, it's been consistent.
Total dollars, because I know some programs go up and others go
Yep,
down.
exactly. It has been fairly consistent probably for about the last 10 years with things like, you know, we have programs rise and fall, but for instance, the groundwater management area, when we were the fiscal lead for that, we showed a lot of income. As that went down, our education program picked up. The funding there mainly comes from the Washington Grain Commission. And so, over the last 10 years it's been consistent, but programs have definitely went up and down.
Any crystal ball projections for the next decade?
I wish
Next month?
No.
Yeah.
That's the difficulty. Honestly, we've been very lucky. Our staff has done a good job, finding and being prepared to get money from the state especially for cost share projects for the producers. Typically, the state knows that we've got projects ready to go, and if they've got some excess money, quite often we actually get a phone call right from them and say, "Can you spend this money?" And we say, "Yes, we can."
It's good management to be ready to take the money. I've got a couple of other questions on the wait for the other commissioners.
I've got one. Pros and cons, commanding pros or cons on this issue here from growers.
No, we have not.
Pretty much smooth over. It's just
when you look at the special purpose districts in the county, the weed board, the horticultural pest board, mosquito control board, for instance, we typically have the lowest rates in charge compared to any of the special purpose districts. Conversely, we bring in and directly provide incentives at such a high rate that they really see, the benefit.
Benefits of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, certainly. And let's see, one more here. Why don't you go ahead and I'll think of it.
Being that they meet in Connell, I try to attend as many meetings as I can, break free from here. But, so I'm quite familiar with the discussion that, you've had over the years of this and the job you've been able to do and keep the dairymen happy and legal.
I'm not sure you can always keep them happy, but do keep them legal.
I remember my question now. Outreach, has the farmers and the people and parcels, everybody realize what's going on? It's been represented well enough to the public?
It's funny. Some people are more engaged than others.
You send information out.
Oh, yes.
I'm sure. And
We've sent information out to a number of people, and we had to have a public hearing ourselves, advertised ours, had to advertise this one. And so, we have, at a minimum, met the statutory requirements for due notice. So.
Okay, good. Okay. That's all the questions I have.
Okay. Mark, the purpose of the hearing today is a proposal to go from a special assessment to the rates and charges system. So it seems appropriate that we ask you to, for the record, for the benefit of people listening, to give us a definition of the special assessment process and the rates and charges and what the key differences are.
Okay, so the assessment authority was granted to conservation districts probably 25 years ago, and it was under RCW 8908-400, and it basically followed the same process as a lot of other special purpose districts. Weed boards, for instance, it is a special assessment, is how it's phrased. There's been some question about the constitutionality of a special assessment, and so about 5 years ago, the Conservation District was able to get the law changed to include a system of rates and charges. The system of rates and charges, that has been argued at the Supreme Court level.
Before we switch, though, maybe on the special assessment, you can outline the authority of your board appointed versus elected and their ability to propose. Because I'm assuming the reason that you can't make this change without coming to the board is because that authority is vested in the board and not in your board.
That's correct.
And that's part of the difficulty, I think, with the special assessment picture, isn't it, that public.
That is correct. In both the special assessment and the rates and charges, the Board of County Commissioners, or the legislative authority of the county, has to approve it. So we can't unilaterally do it as a Conservation District Board. And so both of those, that authority lies with the county commissioners. With the special assessment, it comes down to the legal argument is that under assessment under state constitution, you are supposed to be able to show an individual benefit to each and every parcel that you assess. And that's the constitutional question for assessments. Rates and charges, however, like I said, that's been argued at the Supreme Court, and that was a case in, I believe it was Lewis County.
Collective benefits.
Correct. And that was deemed constitutional under the state law, is that system of rates and charges. In that particular case, the issue was a stormwater charge in Lewis County. And again, it was argued at the Supreme Court level, and the Supreme Court said, yes, a system of rates and charges is constitutional.
That's something I read the other day, just reminded me that the term special assessment is just that, it's an assessment on a particular property for a benefit provided.
Correct.
And not for a collective community benefits.
That's correct.
I appreciate that discussion because, again, the public hearing today is to go from one system to another.
Yep.
We really should sort of speak to what each of those are so that people, if they want to make comments, know what they are. Okay. Well, at this time, we'll go ahead and formally open the public hearing. I've already read the title previously in the recording, so I won't go through that again. We've had a good discussion. I don't think any commissioners have any other questions at this time. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak to this issue and this proposed change from a special assessment to a system of rates and charges as proposed? Okay. Second call. Anybody? I always like to pause just a little bit. You never know, these microphones reach into offices all over the courthouse, and sometimes people will come dashing in from their office. Wait a minute. Didn't know I wanted to comment, but I did. All right, third and final call. Anybody wishing to comment on this? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing at this time. Commissioners, any other discussion before we consider action on the request?
I have none.
Mr. Chairman, I would move for approval of Franklin County Conservation District's proposal under Resolution 2018-272.
I will second the motion.
There's a motion second for approval of Resolution 2018-272, entitled Franklin Conservation District Rates and Charges System for Natural Resource Conservation 2019 through 2028. Last call for any comments or questions from the board. Mr. Johnson, anything you wanted to add? No, sir. Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that's approved. Mark, thank you for providing great read-ahead material at presentation. We often kind of take good material like that, but not always. So we appreciate it. It lets us come in better prepared to have a conversation about it. And thanks to your staff who have been running the program for years. Sometimes forget that when you're not hearing any complaints from constituents, it probably means that they feel like they're being treated fairly, or they don't know what's going on. In this case, I know they do. So thanks for all you're doing.
Well, thank you all very much.
Okay, next item on the agenda this morning is public comment. Anybody wishing to speak with the board? Point out there's going to be another opportunity at 9:30 for public comment as well. Okay, not hearing anyone wishing to make public comment at this time, we'll move on to office business. This is payroll, warrants, and consent.
We have two in front of us this morning. I move for approval of miscellaneous fund expenditures. I think there's 11 different ones here. Current expense, election equipment, revolving, treasurer, O&M, track operations, etc. Bottom line of those items is $287,287.84. And Keith has approved them along with Mr. Beaton and Rosa.
I will second the motion.
We have a motion second for fund expenditures as presented and read into the record by Commissioner Cook. Any comments or questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, those are approved. Understand we have one more.
Second and final is county road and motor vehicle payroll. Bottom line of these two items is $157,534.23. And also, Mr. Beaton and Raul was audited them.
I will second the motion.
Okay. Motion is second for approval of county road and motor vehicle expenditures as read into the record by Commissioner Cook. Any comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, those are approved. Next item on our agenda this morning is the consent agenda. There are 7 items listed. Are there any items on this list of 7 that any commissioner or anyone wishes to separate for separate consideration? Commissioner Cook, any?
I have none, thank you.
I would like to approve consent agenda 1 through 6 and leave 7. I think there's some discussion to be on that one.
Okay. So we'll move item 7 out of the consent agenda for separate consideration. Is there a motion for approval of the remaining consent items 1 through 6?
I will move for that motion.
Second.
Okay, so motion is second for approval of consent agenda items 1 through 6. Any comments or questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, those 6 items are approved. Item 7, Commissioner Cook, I'll just say that had you not pulled that for separate consideration, I was going to, so thank you for doing that.
I did that, Mr. Miller.
Yeah.
It's okay.
No, it's fine, it's great. Do you want to speak to it, or do you want to?
No, I just think this, well, I think there needs to be more discussion, more time on this one. This is extending the lease term with Our Lady of Lourdes Hospital and the Wilson House. There's some interest in the public for using this home. At the same time, I'm not so sure if we want to be involved in that and sell it to someone. I'm just not up to going ahead and extend the lease at this time. Maybe there needs to be more discussion with Lourdes, but at this point, I kind of wonder what are we doing with Wilson House.
So if I may piggyback your comments, the letter from Lourdes asking us to approve the assignment of the lease to a new owner of Lourdes, together with an extension, I believe, of the lease, was signed August 16th, and it asked for an answer no later than August 16th. And it also suggested that if we didn't approve by the end of August, which would have been 14 days, 2 weeks after the date of the letter, that it would potentially jeopardize the sale of the Lourdes complex. So I'll be on record as saying I don't believe that it will have any bearing on the sale of the Lourdes complex. I do think that it absolutely ought to have a legal review. To my knowledge, it has not. And I think there are some secondary and tertiary questions about what is in the best interest of the citizens of Franklin County. Might it be to sell that structure to Lourdes or to a new purchaser of Lourdes, or to sell it on the open market, or to keep it for any one of the many human services missions that we have, some of which don't have adequate facilities now. I'm not advocating or proposing for any particular action, simply saying that there are a multitude of possibilities here, none of which have been explored, and there's been no legal reviews. So I can't support the request based on those and other issues.
Mr. Chairman, may I clarify one thing?
Sure.
Yeah, the language before you.
Yeah, I should say based on what I know. So
Yeah,
that's some
I do
information
have a
about-
little bit of additional information that I didn't clarify until just this morning with Kyle Sullivan. But the current lease with Lourdes is to run through 2021. The action is before you today would not extend that lease term. I realize that the language or the title of the presentation says it consent to assign lease and amendment extending lease term. That could be read a couple of different ways, and I didn't realize the second meaning of that till this morning.
It wasn't isolated as a title.
Yeah.
If had it been isolated as a title, then it would have been an extension of that agreement. Okay.
Yeah, so what they're asking for is simply us to assign the lease and also assign the existing amendment to that lease, which extended the term through 2021. So if the board chose not to take action today, we would not have the ability to make a change to the functional use of that building until 2021, when the current lease term expires.
And arguably, unless Lords could point to a termination clause in the contract, they would still be responsible for lease payments through 2021.
Yes, and I should point out to the board what the lease payments are. There's no cash coming to the county as a result of this. The board, originally in 1991, when this lease was first signed, agreed to allow Lords to use the building, and they would be responsible for paying all the utilities as well as the maintenance and upkeep and improvements to the property, and that was considered adequate consideration for executing that contract at the time. But I certainly recognize the points you raised in 2017, 18.
Yeah. But it's good input. When we spoke yesterday, that was the open question. I hadn't heard the answer to it just now. What is the lease payment? I wasn't aware, obviously, that it was zero. It's approaching three decades of use. I guess there are values that can accrue to the people of Franklin County other than cash payments, can be in the form of services. So it becomes a whole separate evaluation. Is there any other new information?
I might defer to Kyle.
Yeah, so far, I'm still not inclined to support it because of the nature and future use, the potential for it to be leased for other purposes, the potential for it to be used for activities like the one we have in South Central Pasco to detox that it doesn't have an adequate home, or we've had difficulty with two functions co-located, aren't allowed to do that. I'm not saying that's what it should be used for, just that there ought to be some more thoughtful review. Getting a letter dated the 16th saying we need a decision today, and then maybe having as much as 2 weeks before it allegedly interferes with the deal. I don't think any of that's applicable. I think if we keep it as is, around legal review, there's going to be plenty of opportunity to take this up over the next 2-3 weeks if we choose to. I'll note that deadline on the transfer and the sale of Lords to the new entity isn't guaranteed to happen on the 30th. But happy to hear more from anyone, Kyle or board members, anyone who wants to speak to it.
What actually would happen if you do not sign this and Lord sells? Who's going to pay the upkeep? Who's going to keep the doors open?
It depends on what the future use of it is, and
Well, it'd be Franklin County's.
well,
If they're not paying, not using it, if Lord isn't using it.
right, potentially. The Lords is not going to be using it. The new owner may or may not. I look at it from the standpoint, and I think you raise a good question. I look at it from the standpoint, if I owned the house and it was my property and my money, how would I treat the situation? And figuring that we ought not treat the public's money any differently than we probably would our own. I would have it available to the new owner, but it would be an opportunity for a fresh lease, not one that goes back to 1991 with no compensation to the people of Franklin County. And that's what I would propose. And I think the carrying costs for the interim to do that are probably modest at most. But it's an excellent question. That's what I would say to your question.
My understanding is that whoever buys it, which is it right now, is I can't think of the group now, but they will carry, everything carries over the same. Now maybe there's going to be changes after those.
Well, not if there's not a contract signed.
Right. Well, there is one to 91, but everything's supposed to
I
carry.
mean, it's to Lord's though.
Right.
Not to this new company, so.
If we don't assign it to the new company, we will continue to own the property.
Correct.
We just won't be leasing it for free to a third party. And if we're concerned about carrying costs and maintenance, we have a variety of options. One, out of human services funding, use it for another human services funded program. Two, we could sell it and bring the funds into the county and use them for a like use. Not that we'd have to, but we could use it for health and mental health facility improvements in the old jail. It'd be a nice cash flow for that. Still be serving the same population. We could lease it out to the general public, which I don't advocate, but we could. We could lease it to any number of local organizations, CAC, or the new owner of Lord. So I do think it's a very fair and good question, but I also think we have lots of options for what we can do with the building.
I just consider the liability of having it could always be a problem, and just the fact of, if we're not getting anything for it, just release it to Lords or to, here it is, RCCH, Capella Healthcare. And again, my understanding was everything's just going to get carried over. Yeah, they're going to continue doing what they're doing. Nothing's changing. Now, until that's done and said, maybe they will change. But that was my understanding, is they're just continuing everything. Kyle, is that correct?
Yeah.
That includes this? And this
I'm
includes
reminded of the statement, there are no guarantees.
well, there never is.
Right.
And I think the only thing that I would maybe add is that I know, I think Lord started leasing the property in 91, and it was used as a clubhouse model, and so there were had a specific purpose. They quit using it as a clubhouse maybe 10 or 15 years ago, and I think right now they manage their PAC team, so it's like office space right now. So I think the original use of when the county leased it, essentially at no cost, has changed. So I think the services change, and
So Lords is a not-for-profit entity, and is the new buyer coming in a for-profit or a?
Yes.
They are a for-profit.
They are a for-profit.
That was one of the things that occurred to me the other day, and I forgot until just now. Your comment triggered my memory. I'm not real excited about a $0 lease to a for-profit hospital corporation.
Right.
Not a not-for-profit. And my understanding is under Washington state law, when a for-profit hospital organization buys out a not-for-profit, there's an obligation for certain funds from that transaction to stay in the local community for like processes. And I don't have the facts, so I'm not going to make any assertions. I'll just say I'm hearing that the formula for that, because this hospital purchase, I'm told, is part of a larger acquisition, including another hospital down in the Lewiston area, and that the proportionate share of those funds remaining in the community don't favor our community. And so there's some debate, and since I don't have the facts, I'm not going to take a side yet.
Sure.
But it is a for-profit entity, and I'm not inclined to just let them use the building for nothing. So, anyway, I'm sorry. It just was a key part of the discussion that hadn't come out yet. So
Right.
What else would you add?
That was pretty much it. Other than I just wanted to make the board aware that when the county originally went into the lease, it was used
Sure. Differently. Now.
Yeah.
Right. And we worked with them several years ago on the north side of the building. They put in a staircase, they put in an entrance to the lower level. We talked about screening and shrubs and fences, and Lawrence was great to work with us and very
Right.
accommodating. Everybody came away feeling like we got what we needed. And I remember that was the point at which their use really changed pretty significantly, I think. I'm still concerned that we've not had a legal review. It's going to a for-profit entity under a lease that has zero payment. It's owned by the people of Franklin County. We have other possible uses. Are there programs that you're acquainted with or aware of that might benefit from using this facility?
I don't know that I was prepared to comment on that. I think throwing it out there.
But with the detox area building, we've got some real issues.
Yes.
And I don't know, and I don't won't even suggest that I know whether or not some or part of those programs could be more effectively administered there. I just don't know. It's in a residential the same way the other one is. So I think city zoning and permits would not challenge because it's apples and apples.
Right.
But I think the opportunity for legal review and the opportunity for you to look at it and give the board advice as to how we best use it makes more sense than continuing a $0 lease to a for-profit hospital.
Sure.
You on board with that thinking, or would you recommend something different?
No, I would be on board with that.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Get legal first and discuss with you. I think it's good.
And Lord has been a good partner with the county for a lot of years, and I know that no one was intending to gum up the works for sale, but I just can't even begin to think for a moment that that property is in any way jeopardized this sale. It just
Sure.
simply isn't. If anyone has ever done a real estate transaction for anything understands that it's in the margins at most. So we've already approved items 1 through 6 on the consent. There's a consensus among the board to return item 7 to the county administrator for a legal review and then a future discussion with Kyle after he's had an opportunity to research and come back to the recommendation as to how the county can make the best use of the property.
I think that's the best place forward at this point.
I agree.
Okay, so there's consensus, and Kyle, we sure appreciate your help in looking at it and how you think we can best serve the people of Franklin County.
You bet. All right.
Okay,
Thanks.
Okay, that brings us to administration office business. Mr. Johnson?
We have the board action this morning.
Commissioners, anything under administration office business for this morning?
Not that I'm aware of.
Nope.
Okay. I have been most weeks, not every week, but occasionally giving you updates on the Veterans Program. I'd like to give you a quick update on that. The Veterans Advisory Board has already been impaneled or approved by us, 5 members. The first meeting is tomorrow evening, 5:30, and the agenda for that is still in the works, so it's in draft at this point, but essentially it's an organizing meeting for the advisory board members to select a chair or vice chair and then a reporter/secretary, somebody who can keep minutes of meetings so we have a record of the activities. As a reminder, the Veterans Advisory Board's primary mission is to advise us, the Board of Commissioners, how to effectively manage the Veterans Assistance Program under the Washington State Code, under the RCW. And that's tomorrow night. I believe we're already in compliance with the core of the RCWs, but the next big piece after the organizing meeting establishing a mission and some basic guidelines is to meet with Kyle and or members of his staff to have discussion about the operational piece. So you have the Board of Commissioners as the authority under the statute. Next down on the organizational chart, if you will, is the Veterans Advisory Board advising us on policy. We set the policy, they advise us. But then the next tier below that is we need to have an operational body that can actually handle the process and the accounting associated with veterans coming in, indigent veterans coming in, requesting assistance, being given vouchers, and then that process being properly documented, having the proper financial controls. And it's that operational piece that will take us into the real world of actually putting vouchers on the street. That's currently being done by a local veterans group. They've indicated they may not want to continue, and so we're pressing full speed ahead to try and get this in place here in the next couple of weeks. And I know that Kyle, the organization, already does that for Benton County. I've already looked at that process, and it appears to me that it'd be pretty seamless for us to have you do it, but I don't want to bring that to the board for their consideration until we get advice from the Veterans Advisory Board. It seems if we have a board and we're seeking their advice, we should get it before we make decisions. It's a novel concept, they don't. So anyway, that's an update on the Veterans Advisory Board. There is a Veterans Night at Easton Stadium. I want to say it's Thursday night, I hope, because that's when it's on my calendar. Yours truly has been cajoled into throwing out the first pitch, so if you haven't had your humor for the week, that might be a good time. Yeah, used to do that, but that was a long time ago. So anyway, that's it on the Veterans Board update. There are some other activities, but they're not immediate for today. Any other comments from the board before we move to public comment? Anybody think of anything they want to bring up?
I did attend the Metro Drug Task Force meeting yesterday, and just continuation of the funding is a little troublesome, but just because of the grants that have lost, and they aren't coming back. So, but we are making it work, and again, we go through another year. But the county's not really putting a lot into it, but what we are working with is City of Pasco, and they are contributing 80% of the funding, and that makes a difference. I still believe in the Metro Drug Task Force's benefit to Pasco, so I'd like to see that continue. We are good till next July 31st in 2019.
Perhaps you'd be willing to bring a proposal and a presentation here in the next few weeks, just sort of bringing us all back up to speed on exactly what the current mission is, what their funding looks like, and what you recommend from Franklin County. I'd certainly be interested in hearing that. I don't know without the information whether it's something I could support, but I'm sure we have a discussion.
It's been done. We continued last year to continue. Last year we were shared with City of Pasco, and it was continued that we've continued that for this year. And but there's I mean,
does that run out pretty soon?
No, it continues on. July 31st is the fiscal year, and that was July 31st. But our agreement was to continue on the second year. If
So the current agreement runs through June 30th of next year?
Correct.
Okay, all right. Well, then, unless there's some significant new information, then probably there's no need to have a presentation. I made a bad assumption that it ran out the end of the calendar year. Okay. Let's see, next on the agenda this morning is public comment. We didn't have anyone earlier. Is there anyone now who wants to talk to the board? Mr. Blank? Good morning.
Good morning, Roger Lang.
Congratulations on your appointment, by the way.
Thank you very much.
That would be item 6 in the consent agenda.
I've taken my training and run the 350-page packet for this evening's meeting, so I'm ready to go.
That's part of why we thought of you. We knew you'd do your homework. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Roger Lang, 1817, Road 76, Franklin County. I did want to make a comment on your consent agenda, item 7. When I read the contract, it was with RCCH and Capella. Capella has not been mentioned in any of the local hospital purchases. It seems to be a nebulous organization at this point. RCCH is in the process of merging with Life Point. It's a small hospital group in the Tennessee area, and when that takes place, they will be they're in the process of being purchased by Apollo Management Group. It's a private equity company with $68 billion in revenues per year. So you probably need to take a look at the entire of those issues when you negotiate that contract. So that's just I want to pass that on.
Thank you.
Thanks. Any other public comment? Okay, Mr. Johnson, I see here an executive session scheduled for 9:35. Do we still need that?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, we do.
Yeah. I said, yes, we do. So yes.
Carla's been on vacation, so we'll blame her for not reminding me on a daily basis.
That's fine.
No, yes, we do need an executive session.
Are we anticipating the need for board action or the possibility of board action after this?
Yes.
Okay, so just for anyone who's listening, we're going to go into executive session under RCW 4230-110-1G, which is evaluate qualifications of an applicant for employment. And we're thinking this is going to take up to how many minutes?
20 minutes? Yeah, we can probably do it less than that, but we might reserve up to 20 minutes.
So we'll say up to 20 minutes and reserve the opportunity to come out early if we can complete our business before that. And who all do we need for this executive session? I'm assuming it's the board, the county administrator, Carly Nave,
And Matt Mahoney.
No, Mike Killian.
and Mr. Killian. Anyone else? Okay, we don't need our civil attorney? Okay. Okay, well, as soon as we're able to get the door closed, we'll
Thanks, Kyle.
we'll go into session.
Did you have a good getaway, Jim?
That's right.
Karen, let's go ahead and okay, the recording is on, the mics are on. We're going to pause for a moment for anyone who is waiting outside who might want to come back inside. I see a few folks coming in. We have completed our executive session within the allotted time. And we're back officially on the record now at 10:03. The executive session having been completed. Thanks to the participants, that was a good discussion. If there's no objection from the board, I'll offer a motion at this time. Secretary, any objection to that?
None.
Okay, so I'd move that the Board of Franklin County Commissioners authorize County Clerk Mr. Killian, together with assistance from HR, to extend an offer of employment for the position of Clerk Collections Officer to an individual who's been identified and discussed in executive session, and to make said offer at grade 13, step 7, and to further authorize the board chair to sign any personnel documents necessary to effectuate, to approve, there's a better word, to approve the hire, assuming that it is presented and accepted. Is there a second to the motion?
There is.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second for the motion. I'm going to try not to repeat. Is there any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so the motion is approved. Mr. Killian, you have the board's approval to extend the offer. If it's accepted, give me a call and I'll make myself available to find whatever you need.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, thanks. Any other business before the board this morning? Last call before we adjourn. Adjourn. Thanks.